All right then. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is August 11th, 2020. This is a special meeting of the members of the State Liquor Authority. Present today, the meeting's being held in Albany with the members participating remotely. We have Chairman Bradley on the phone. Chairman Bradley.
Yes, I'm here.
We have Commissioner Ford and Commissioner Fan, both who we've seen on the video. We also have on video General Counsel Meyerhoff and myself, Secretary Donahue, in person in the Albany office. We have 4 items on today's calendar. 3 are requests for summary orders of suspension, and 1 is a request for reconsideration. First item I have is 929 SSS. It's Bronx OP 1299229. Licensee is 880 Royce Restaurant and Bar, Corp.
Hi, good afternoon, members. Kayla O'Donnell on behalf of Counsel's Office, seeking an emergency order of summary suspension against the licensee who's shown a clear disregard of the governor's executive orders. This license was issued to operate a restaurant on South Boulevard in Bronx, New York on February 1st, 2017. On August 9th, a task force investigator, Perota, visited the licensed premises and observed at least a dozen people standing, ignoring social distancing, and not wearing face coverings. The investigator observed and photographed, as the photos in the record before you depict, hookah and buckets of beer, but not food, on tables set up in front of licensed premises. The tables set up on the sidewalk were considerably less feet from the sidewalk where the public passes by, people who are seated at tables. It looked to be 6 feet between people seated at tables and people just walking by on the sidewalk. Investigator Perota stated that it looked like a crowded Manhattan sidewalk. These findings are all violations of Executive Orders 202.43 and 202.36. The investigator also observed at least 1 patron consuming a beverage which appeared to be an alcoholic beverage inside the licensed premises, despite the fact that inside dining has been banned in New York City for almost 5 months, and inside consumption is a violation of Executive Order 202.3. Furthermore, the investigator observed at least 2 employees who were not properly wearing face coverings as required by Executive Order 202.16. Notably, the licensee's principal was present, and thus the licensee is being charged with failure to supervise, as given the numerous executive order violations committed even in his presence. Additionally, this is not the first time the licensee committed an executive order violation, as on July 30th, several employees were observed not to be wearing face coverings in violation of 202.16. There were at least 4 employees photographed not wearing face coverings on that date, as the record before you reflects. The licensee was found violating almost all of the executive orders relating to restaurant service in just 1 night. This licensee is clearly attempting to operate as a bar with hookah, with buckets of beer, and groups of people standing, socializing, which is exactly what the governor's orders seek to prevent. The law is designed to prevent the spread of the highly contagious virus during the pandemic, and thus the summary suspension of this license is required to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the patrons, employees, their families, and the community as a whole. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
Council, after the July 30 incident, were the licensees warned, or were the employees notified that the investigator was there and that they were not wearing face coverings?
They were not.
They were not notified.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you, Tom.
Chairman Bradley, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
All right, then I'll call for your votes. Commissioner Fan.
This licensee shows a continued indifference towards the governor's executive order by allowing his employees repeatedly to serve customers with no face coverings, which has been required in all businesses since April 12. That he's also allowed indoor service and service of alcohol with no food, and large crowds standing outside his establishment with drinks in hand and no face coverings. This location is a imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare. This licensee is clearly disregarding the governor's executive order surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic, and I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
All right then, Commissioner Ford, your vote.
As Commissioner Fan has stated, the establishment was caught twice with employees not wearing face masks. Congregations of crowds on the streets within 100 feet of the licensed establishment. Indoor consumption, alcohol, food, and consuming and ignoring social distancing guidelines. So I vote to summarily suspend this license.
All right then, Chairman Bradley.
I vote to summarily suspend as well. It's obvious that this licensee is failing to abide by the large majority of the executive orders that were imposed to protect the public health, safety, and welfare, as well as the safety and welfare of his employees, and he seems to be ignoring a variety of them on multiple occasions, so I vote to summarily suspend.
All right, then the next item I have is 929 TTT. This is New York HL 1146037. It's a request for reconsideration of a summary order of suspension issued regarding the licensee Page GRP LLC as the manager, Hotel Gansevoort GRP LLC, and Hudson Rooftop LLC as the licensees.
Yes, thank you, Tom. Members, this is a license that we suspended on Saturday. Following the suspension, we received a letter from the licensee's counsel indicating that they believe that the space that we held that we believed to be indoors was really outside under the relevant Department of Health and State Liquor Authority guidance. I asked the licensee's counsel to send pictures showing something that we didn't see, which the licensee then did. There's a video, which most of it is irrelevant, but at the end of the video, you can see the space in which the service at issue had occurred. And then there's also a photograph, which should be in your materials. The video and photograph show that this is a long, narrow corridor that's separated from the ordinary inside of the space that's in the hotel. So it is a separate, it's a distinct seating area. The long wall appears to be open, and then the short walls, because it is a long, thin rectangle, appear to be open for at least 6 feet. There's a man standing in the picture to show roughly how open it is. So while there's no open sides on opposing sides of this room on the long way, this technically is, we would say, 2 open sides, or at least it would have been fair or reasonable for the licensee to have concluded that they were within the 2 open side provision that is referenced in the DOH and SLA guidance as constituting outside space. The licensee also put fans in to encourage the airflow, which was the whole point about outside space, one of the issues referenced there. Given this new evidence and this particular configuration, we believe that it would be appropriate for the members to withdraw the summary order of suspension on that basis.
All right then, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions either. Thank you.
How about Chairman Bradley? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, just to clarify, Council, the front of the space is open, and then one of the ends is open as well, and there's fans circulating the air?
That's correct. The ends are not open floor to ceiling, but they are open substantially above I guess, a solid structure. There's at least, it appears to be a 6-foot expanse that would allow airflow from essentially 3 sides.
Oh, so both ends are open?
It looks like both ends are open, yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right, with that, I'm going to call for your votes on the request by the licensee to reconsider, and we're just going to combine this, to reconsider and rescind the summary suspension order. Commissioner Fan?
Given that the space in question is of compliance according to both city rules and the governor's executive order, I vote to withdraw our summary suspension.
Commissioner Ford?
With the clarification that's been afforded us, I gladly vote to reconsider and to rescind the summary order of suspension.
And Chairman Bradley?
I'll vote to rescind the summary order of suspension too. Just to be clear, this is only because this is opened on 3 sides, and it appears to be a specific porch area that is demarcated by a back wall that is separated from the inside of the hotel, which is different if it had opened into the hotel space. Correct, Council?
Yes, that's right. If that's your vote, I was going to say something about that as well.
And just also to add, we're dismissing the charges as well?
Yes.
Okay, I'll vote on those grounds.
Yeah, just for the record and for anybody who's listening, the concern that council's office has, and I believe the members would have, is that people who have a dining room, an inside dining room, that does not have a separate section that ends up out onto the street in some way and just has windows, that locations in that position would take advantage and try to have people served obviously inside in a circumstance where it's not a separate outside space with open walls. And certainly if there's any confusion about what may or may not be inside or outside space, we encourage licensees to err on the side of not breaking the law and clarifying if they need to, but the rules are no inside space, even if it's a sidewalk patio, unless it meets the definition in the DOH guidance and the SLA guidance. That's all. Thank you.
Gary?
Right.
Yes.
I will also say that if it's possible, may we ask the investigators to try to take a 360 pictures, because if they look at it from one view, it's often very hard to see and judge. And that
Of course.
it would provide more surrounding pictures. I think more is better in this instance.
We are doing what we will certainly communicate that, and we'll make sure going forward that we have the record we need before we take steps. I will tell you that this one is confounding because the picture we have is the same place that's depicted in the pictures that we got as follow-up, but it does not look the same in different light and in different circumstances. So unfortunate that this happened, but we've addressed it. So thank you, members.
All right, then the next item we have, which is a request for a summary order of suspension, is 929UUU. It's Queens OP 1040427. Licensee is El Pedrago Restaurant Corp.
Hey, good afternoon, Chairman Bradley, Commissioners Fan and Ford. Senior Attorney Caramelo here on behalf of Council's office on this request for a summary order suspension of El Pedregal Restaurant Corp., DBA El Trono de Mexico, case 146743. The original license issue date on this one is September 22 of 2009. Last night, August 10th, 2020, at approximately 8:11 p.m., Investigator Khan of the New York State Justice Center and Investigator Nemeth of the New York State Police observed alcoholic beverages being sold without accompanying food to 4 tables of customers. The investigators asked to speak to the owner or manager, and a Mr. Salverda Ortega identified himself as such. The investigators informed Mr. Ortega of the violations noted, and he did not deny that the establishment was in violation of the governor's executive orders. The investigators asked Mr. Ortega for his identification and took pictures of it. There were 2 different names on 2 different IDs. We'll get more into that if you'd like. But there was also what appeared to be a patron's order receipt for one of the outside tables indicating the purchase of both Corona beer and Modelo beer, but no food. You can see that in the pictures included with the file. The licensee is being charged with violating Executive Order 202.38, as well as failure to supervise for these violations. This is not this licensee's first go-around with us. There's an extensive disciplinary history in the file. February of this past year, the full board assessed $3,000 for unlicensed security guards. March 2019, the full board accepted a counteroffer of $12,000 for 2 counts of sales to minor. Other adverse history in the file includes an additional sales to minor convictions for unauthorized trade name, failure to conform to their application, failure to comply with health regulations, refilling bottles, and 3 additional counts of unlicensed security guards. The need for licensees to serve food to every patron purchasing alcoholic beverages during their reopening is central to the governor's executive orders in the name of public health and safety, and has been widely reported via media sources. As a result, it is the position of the Office of Counsel that it's simply not reasonable to believe that a licensed retailer in New York City could be unaware of his responsibilities to sell food to all patrons during the reopening. In fact, when confronted by task force investigators, licensee's manager did not deny that the premises had sold alcoholic beverages to patrons without food. This particular licensee has a lengthy disciplinary history with us and is thus fully aware of his need to operate his licensed premises responsibly and within the 4 corners of the ABCL and the governor's executive orders. It's therefore the opinion of the Office of Counsel licensee was fully aware of the need to serve food to all patrons during the reopening and merely chose to attempt to circumvent the requirement to do so in an effort to gain more customers at the expense of his more responsible competitors who do follow the rules. Due to the foregoing, the Office of Counsel hereby requests an immediate summary order of suspension be issued for this licensee. Thank you for your time.
All right then, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions on this matter?
I have 2 questions. Can you much in total fines they've paid, let's say the past 5 years, if you haven't?
I don't have that number. I know it's at the minimum 15,000.
Okay.
15,500.
And can you shed some light on the difference in the 2 last names? Which one is the one of record?
Yeah, we don't have, we don't have anything on file for the name he gave the investigators, it's Salverda Ortega. And that appears on the New York City identification card that he produced when asked for his ID. We do have a personal questionnaire on file for a manager named Carmelo M. Salverda, Saavedra, which is similar, although not identical, to the Carmelito Salverda that's referenced in the New York City Department of Health ID card. in the pictures in the file. So we suspect this is the same guy that we have a personal questionnaire for you know, as a manager for the premises.
So who's the licensee?
It's not him. I have it as
Not either one of these two people.
No, his last name is, I believe, is Juarez. Jesus Juarez.
Okay.
All right, then,
Thank you.
Commissioner Ford. Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Tom.
How about Chairman Bradley?
So just to follow up on that, Paul, did either of these two gentlemen identify themselves as a licensee?
No. Well, Mr. Salverda Ortega identified himself as the owner slash manager.
So he did. So he basically said he was a licensee.
He did hold himself out as the licensee.
Okay.
We will investigate the potential availing here.
All right, then, with that, I'll call for your votes. First, Commissioner Fan.
This license premise has with our agency, and this licensee should know better than to continue to ignore the governor's executive orders. They have violated the executive orders by allowing alcohol service with no food items. As council pointed out, it's also possible that there is an ongoing availing at this location. And due to imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I am voting to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford.
I vote to summarily suspend for the same reasons as Commissioner Fan.
Chairman Bradley.
I vote to summarily suspend on the same grounds as Commissioner Fan.
All right, then, the next item is 929 VVV. Queens RW 1294192. Licensee is El Marquez, Inc.
Good afternoon, members of the authority. Robert Buckley for Council's Office. Again, it's a request for an emergency order from suspension. I believe there's a whole host of justifications that the members will have once my presentation is completed. This location is at 88-11 Roosevelt Avenue, Jackson Heights, New York. It is licensed as a restaurant wine license to only serve wine and beer. This license was issued on July 19, 2016, and in fact, it seems they're on their second cycle of operating under SAPA. The most recent inspection was last night on August 10th, 2020. The same personnel that Mr. Karamanol just mentioned, Brandy Kahn and William Nemeth, they went to the location about 6:50 last night, and they observed in the outdoor area 3 tables of customers consuming alcohol beverages, but with no food order, as well as there were customers standing, congregating, lingering in that same area, several without face masks, as well as there was a waitress not wearing a face mask as well. When they asked for the manager, a person named Hugo Cruz identified himself as the manager, a person in charge, but did not produce identification, and Mr. Cruz apparently rustled up some old receipts that did not prove that persons had ordered food at these tables like Mr. Cruz claimed. As well, there was a person using a karaoke machine, and from the photograph submitted with the report, it appears that at one point he seems to be in full throat singing to a microphone, and it's well known scientifically that persons who are singing or projecting their voice may certainly transmit the coronavirus. So the licensee is in violation of executive orders 202.16 for patrons not wearing face masks, 202.17 for employees not wearing face masks, as well as under executive order 202.38, they're allowed to have outdoor service, but they must ensure that there's compliance with Department of Health regulations. Certainly these people who are congregating and lingering, that face mask violates that executive order as well. Executive order 202.43 requires the licensee to inspect and monitor the location within 100 feet from their premises. Prior to that, August 10th inspection, there was a joint inspection with Investigator Stravali with the Roosevelt Avenue Task Force on July 25th of 2020. Investigator Stravali's not filed his report, but he did submit to me a summary of what happened and photographs. And again, the premises seems to be in the same state of persons outside, congregated, lingering. And further, it appears that the licensee has placed tables in front of an adjacent storefront. Executive Order 202.38, when the governor allowed outdoor service, it was on the condition that it only be an area contiguous to the premises. Here, the licensee has extended its premises. And again,
Bob, can you hold on just for a second, please?
Yes.
All right, just Commissioner Fan, do we still have you? Commissioner Fan?
Yep,
All right, just trying to check. Okay, we lost you there for a second. Sorry about
what
that.
happened? I'm here.
Oh, you're okay? You're all right
Okay.
now? Okay.
So,
Mr.
Jeff,
Bucky?
again, just go. I'm sorry, go ahead. Take that.
No, go ahead, Mr. Buckley.
Okay, so again, just going briefly back to the 7/25/2020 inspection. It also should be noted that the investigation was at 11:35 p.m. and under the under the mayor's orders, there's no seating after 11 p.m. And this licensee is not a stranger to the police department or the state liquor authority. In the file are numerous police referrals, particularly from the Roosevelt Avenue Task Force, indicating this premises continually operates just as a nightclub with no food, beer being sold out of buckets, as well as there's a stipulation that they must close at 3 a.m. Now, in the file, there is a person named Hugo Davila indicated on some of the referrals. That may be Mr. Cruz, as well as there's another person listed as a person in charge of Sabas Marine, and Sabas Marine was the person who Investigator Stravali on July 25th determined to be the person in charge. So this licensee, as well, has been cited with 3 current notices of pleading regarding particularly failed to conform with the license application. So the licensee is well aware of their failure to conform to the application, as well as the licensee has been cited 3 different times for sales underage and been paid a total of $18,500 for sales to minors, and there's now a 4th sale to minor in November of 2019, which has not been pled. This licensee, again, as a restaurant, only stated it would have recorded and jukebox. So again, this licensee has been continuously operating as a club, not as a restaurant, and certainly it's in violation of all the executive orders that have been implemented since March of 2020. For all those basis, the council's office submits this matter to the members for emergency order summary suspension.
All right then, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
Council, I have a quick question about 202.17. That is a requirement for any individual who's over age 2 to face covering when in a public place. Is that actually a chargeable offense against a licensee? Or?
Sorry, I just missed the
Well,
question. I missed the question. Commissioner Fan, if you could just.
So, Gary, my question is this: in this matter, we're charging 202.17, which is the requirement starting on April 17 that basically it's a civilian mass requirement, and we're charging this licensee for violating that.
Right. Well, it's commissioned in conjunction with 202.38 and 202.43, where 202.38 required compliance with Department of Health guidelines once the governor permitted outdoor service. And then 202.3 further articulated that the licensee has an obligation within 100 feet of the premises, again, to monitor and supervise and inspect the location for violations of the face covering, social distancing, open container regulations, as well as any other SLA or Department of Health guidelines. So you could say-
Commissioner Fan, it's a fair point. We'll consider whether we have standing to bring a charge under that section, but I don't think that, while we will make sure to get that right, I don't think the availability or unavailability of that particular charge changes this case and whether or not it's deserving of a summary suspension, because as Mr. Buckley points out, it is the obligation of the licensee if it sees people congregating and not obeying social distancing or mask requirements to stop service and not contribute to congregating and mingling that could cause the transmission of the virus. Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, then Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
I had some questions about the face mask too. There was multiple charges on the notice of pleading, and I wasn't quite clear what the difference was between them all. But in sum total, as counsel says, there's still the case to be made here for it. So I don't have any other questions. I think they've been pretty much answered.
All right. Chairman Bradley, it's my understanding you have to recuse yourself from this matter?
Yes, I neglected to see that the second date was July 25th, and I was actually at the location with investigators Stravali and members of the NYPD at that time. So I'm recusing myself.
All right, then. That being the case, I will turn to Commissioner Fan for her vote.
This licensee has committed multiple violations of the governor's executive order by allowing alcohol service with employees not wearing face masks, service of alcohol past the 11 p.m. curfew, and violating other ABC laws and fire safety related issues. This location was warned and continued to ignore the governor's executive orders surrounding COVID pandemic, and due to imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
All right, then. Commissioner Ford, your vote.
On at least one occasion, not only were they not serving food, but the kitchen was closed. That in and of itself is a non-bona fide charge, even under normal circumstances. They had an extension cord that they were using as permanent wiring. Manager refused to provide identification. The liquor license copy they provided expired in June of 2018. So this place, plus the other executive order violations too, 2.16, 17, 38, 43, 52, on and on. This establishment has a very poor history, sales to minor, open past SLA approved closing previously, other health code violations galore. I have serious questions about this, whether this place should ever reopen again. And I don't say that very often, but I do in this case. So I vote to summarily suspend.
All right, thank you. I have no other items on the calendar. Chairman Bradley, is there anything else you want to raise at the meeting?
No, thank you, everybody.
All right, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.